Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the Lynx 12 and is this a good choice for home defense. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before, recently came up in my comments, and I want to talk about it again and maybe add a few things that I may have not talked about in the past. Okay, so Lynx 12, first thing I'm going to talk about is reliability, okay, because that's like one of the most important things when you're considering a gun for home defense, right? Reliability. Now, I actually have three Lynx 12s. Two of them, okay, this is one of them, two of them have 15,000 plus rounds on it, okay, so a little bit over 15,000 rounds. So I have a lot of experience with these guns. I think I've had to change the recoil spring on it twice, okay? So, you know, it is something that's going to wear out. And also on one of these, I broke the bolt. I broke the bolt at 11,000 rounds, which is, you know what, I mean, it's not uncommon for things to start breaking once you get over, you know, once you start approaching 10,000 rounds. Most of you guys are never going to shoot more than, you know, more than a couple of thousand rounds. And that said, on my home defense guns, right, the guns that I use for home defense, I have maybe fired maybe 1,500 rounds on them. You know, basically enough to establish reliability. And then, like, I'll only shoot them like a couple times a year just to make sure the red dot's working, that they're still zeroed. So the guns that I use for home defense, I don't shoot a lot once I establish reliability. Okay, you know, so you know that's so the point is that the fact that I've got 15,000 rounds on this, and the gun broke at me at some point, is a non-issue. Okay, what is an issue is that a lot of the feedback that I have gotten from you guys in the comments is that some of you guys have bought some of these Lynx 12s, and you have had problems with them. Like you've had problems with the gun not working, not cycling, and I believe you guys. Okay, you know, here's the thing: I have three of them worked right out of the box. And the thing I'm going to say about the Lynx 12 is it's made in China, and we don't know at what factory or factories they're made at. We don't know who the managers are at particular times. We don't know if all the parts are made at one factory, or if there's multiple factories that make parts that you know, this company that makes the Lynx 12 then buys those, and maybe at some point they switch you know, who they buy their parts from. So we know nothing about the manufacturing process of the Lynx 12. You know, so just because my gun is reliable does not mean your gun's going to be reliable. Okay, so right there is the answer I think that most of you guys want to know. Is the Lynx 12 a good gun for home defense? Especially to somebody that's asking me in terms of, he's about to buy one, right? He's looking for a home defense gun. He's like, hey, I like your Lynx 12. Should I buy this for home defense? My answer is no. Don't buy it for home defense, because the one that you buy may not be as good as the ones that I bought, okay? You know, that's just how it is. Now, it's a great gun to buy for, you know, busting clay birds and having fun with, absolutely. But until you've actually, you know, if you buy the gun, you know, be aware, if you're buying it for home defense, be aware that you've got to shoot at least 1,000 rounds through it to establish reliability. And here's the thing, you know, sometimes, you know, just because it works with one type of ammunition or certain magazines, hey, it may not work with all of them. These magazines that I've bought here, you know, I did get some defective ones that were making the gun jam up, right? I did a video on fixing these. So that's an important consideration. Your magazines might be part of the problem. Okay, so you gotta test the gun, you gotta test the magazines, you gotta test the ammo. Although my guns pretty much shoot with any 12 gauge ammo as long as the magazines are good. Okay, but that's something I had to, you know, I kind of had to work through, right? Kind of debug it. Luckily, when I at the point that I got my Lynx 12s, I already had magazines that I had been using with my Sega 12 that were already established as, hey, these magazines work great. So I threw those, you know, when I started using those magazines on my Lynx 12s, you know, I had no problem. So if you're having a problem with your Lynx 12s, it could be your magazines, okay? I'm not saying that it is, but it could be. But it may also just be that, hey, you know, your Lynx 12, the one that you bought, was of a different lot than the ones that I bought, right? And most likely, you know, and I got 3 of them that I bought at different, you know, different time periods. So all 3 of them are probably from different lots. I think I just got lucky, okay? So that's the first thing I'm going to put out there. Second thing I'm going to put out there is we'll talk about the mag changes, right? Because here's the thing. First of all, I got 4 guns here, right? My 5 must-have guns are AR-15, AK-47, a Glock, a 10-22 rifle, and a Lynx 12, right? Those are my top 5 guns. I've done other videos on that. I don't have the 10-22 on this table because we're talking about home defense. So I've got the other 4 guns here, okay? So with the AR-15, right, if you get a jam with this gun, right, usually it's, you know, it might be a magazine problem, might be an ammo problem, it might be a user, you know, problem, whatever it is. The way that you troubleshoot it is you take out the magazine, right? You may have to rip it out, all right? You clear the gun, okay? Right? Lock the gun open, okay? Put your magazine in, and then you're back to work, okay? So in order to fix the gun, you have to have a second magazine, okay? So that's the important thing. So here's the thing. With the AR-15, these magazines are small enough, right? Even the 30-round magazines are small enough that I can just put this in my back pocket and it's going to stay there, right? You can see how it's all the way in my pocket, right? 30-round magazine all the way in my pocket, right? And I got 30 rounds there, okay? So if this gun stops working, all right? So here I am, bang, 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 gun stops working. Rip out the mag, clear this, take the mag, take this one in, put that in, okay, charge it, gun's ready to work, okay? The problem with the Lynx 12 is look how big the magazines are, okay? Not only are they big, right, it's almost, you know, it's about 50% bigger. Not only are they bigger, wider, it's not going to fit in my back pocket, right? And it only holds 10 rounds, okay? That's a serious handicap because in order to fix the gun, I need a second magazine. So it's a lot harder to carry these magazines on my body. Now, there's a solution. You can plant these, right? You can put them under your bed or, you know, by your window or wherever. You can plant these, but the point is that you've got to have at least 1 extra magazine. And given that these only have 10 rounds, I would probably keep at least 5 to 10 extra magazines. But you know, because it's bigger, you can't just easily put this in the pocket of the pants that you normally wear every day, okay? That's something that, you know, even with an AK, which is a little bit bigger, right? It's just a little bit bigger, you know, I can put this in my back pocket, right? Because now you might say, well, what about a tactical vest and a war belt and all this crap, you know? I mean, who goes to sleep in a tactical vest, right? You know, you take your magazines, you have them, you know, when you go to your safe, you take the gun out, you know, put a mag into it, charge it, take another magazine, throw it in your back pocket. You know, that is a realistic, you know, shit hit the fan type of situation where somebody's, you know, trying to break through your door, right? You know, that's what's going to really happen, okay? So you're not going to be sleeping in a tactical vest. You're going to take an extra magazine, you're going to throw it in your back pocket. Obviously with the Glock mags, you know, that's easy to fit back in there. I don't even have to demonstrate that. All right, so that's an important consideration. When your gun jams, you need a second magazine in order to fix it, okay? Now you might say, well, what if I just take the magazine out and, you know, clear the gun and, you know, I mean, yeah, that might be the problem, you know, but the thing is the best way to do is just get a fresh magazine in there because what if something's wrong with the magazine, okay? So that's an issue with that Lynx 12. It takes a really big magazine that does not have a lot of rounds in it. So you need to, you know, you have to have at least 1 extra one on your body, and this is kind of hard to put on your body, okay? Now, the other thing I'm going to talk about is, since we're on the subject of jams, okay, let's talk about which guns are most likely to jam based on my experience of training new shooters. And the reason why I'm focusing on new shooters is because I find that you know, experienced people, when you put them in stressful situations, they make a lot of the mistakes that beginners make. Okay, so I study new shooters to see what type of mistakes they make, to see what type of mistakes experienced people will make, and basically that's how I kind of formulate my my planning. All right, so I don't when I train people, I don't assume that they're gonna that they're not gonna make mistakes. I assume that they're gonna make mistakes, and I want to have an easy, quick plan for them to fix those mistakes. Okay, so with these guns, and I'll start off with the handgun here. Right, these are recoil operated guns, right? All right, so in order for the gun to work, right, basically the bottom part of the gun has to stay still while the top half is running back and forth. Okay, if you let the gun move around, it's going to jam up because basically, the slide's not going to come back all the way. Okay, so what I find is with beginners, a lot of times they're limp wristing the gun's jumping up all over the place, and the gun jams. Okay, so when training beginners, right, and I train lots of beginners. I go to different ranges. I travel around the, I train people on their property. So I've seen lots of beginners shooting, and of all these guns on the table, the Glock, the AR, the AK, the Lynx 12 is the one that they jam up the most. And I'm talking about my gun, okay? My gun, which is reliable, that never jams when I shoot it. Well, when I give this to a beginner, they often jam up the gun. Now, sometimes one of the reasons why they will jam up the guns is because when they put the shells in, they don't press them all the way back against the wall. So that's one issue, right? But other times it's simply because they're just, they're not holding the gun tight into the chest while they're shooting. Although I'm able to shoot this gun like this. I've done videos where I'm shooting the gun like this and the gun's working, but hey, it might be that I have a more firm grip over here. I just, the stats are when I train beginners, the Lynx 12 is the gun that they're going to jam up the most. The next most likely gun that they're going to jam up is the pistol, and I don't care. Whether it's a Glock or a Sig or a Beretta, handguns, they tend to jam up a lot because now they're not pressing it up against their chest like with a rifle. So with this, they gotta push forward into the gun, and again, if they're letting the gun move around, there's a good chance they're gonna jam it. Okay, so the handgun is the next most likely gun that they are going to jam up, and then we're at the other end with the guns that they are least likely to jam up. ARs and AKs. Okay, where are they? There you go. ARs and AKs. Between the AR and the AK, they're more. If they're going to jam one of these two up, they're more likely to jam up the AR versus the AK. The reason is the AK does have a little bit more pressure in the system, a little bit more recoil. So even if they're holding the gun loose, the gun's moving a little bit. But that said, I have seen beginners jam up AKs. All right, people say AKs never jam. Listen, I watch people jam up AKs all the time. Okay, it doesn't happen often. Rather, I'm not gonna say I see it all the time. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. If they're holding the gun too loose, bolt doesn't come back all the way. I can't jam up an AK. I can hold the gun loose. I can bump fire it. The gun works fine. But it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. Okay. Next, most likely gun after that is the AR-15. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen, especially if they, if they're not leaning into the gun. When I first started learning how to bump fire without a stock on an AR, I've done videos on bump firing this. Basically, I make the gun. Hold on. I've done videos, basically I hook my hand like this, right? I put this on the outside of my shoulder so the gun rocks back and forth, and I pull the gun forward. When I first started practicing with that, I used to, fire a couple of rounds and then the AR would jam up on me. Obviously, it's not meant to be shot that way. It's meant to be pressed in against your shoulder. Compared to the AK, when I was first learning how to bump fire, when I would do this with the AK, put this on the outside of my shoulder, pull the gun forward, the AK was a lot less. Occasionally I might jam it up, but it was a lot less likely to jam up. Okay, so by far the AK is more reliable if you're not handling the gun properly. The problem with the AK is that it's too front heavy for most women. When you're trying to decide which is the best gun for home defense, don't just consider yourself. Consider other people in your household, your wife, your kids, your neighbors, right? That you know you might need for assistance. Consider which guns would be the easiest for them, and that by far is the AR-15. Although it is a little bit more prone to jamming compared to an AK, it is so much easier to shoot recoil wise, and it's less front heavy because it doesn't have that piston over there. That it still usually makes this the better choice. Okay, just because it's lighter, your wife can shoot this, your girlfriend can shoot this. So that's, I think, important information for you guys to consider as far as the Lynx 12 for a home defense gun. Like I said, the one I have very reliably, I wouldn't have a problem using this gun for home defense, but I would definitely have a backup gun, right? I would have some backup gun. It's not that, it's this, right? Always have two guns, right? Always have two guns. When I tell that to people, sometimes people will say, well, how about like military guys? They usually have just one rifle, right? But there's usually, they're usually not alone. They're usually part of a unit. So if their gun stops working, they can take cover, fix their gun while other people are providing cover and support and, and cover fire and stuff like that. Okay, so in a military unit, most soldiers only get one gun, but they're part of a larger team. So there's really at least 4 other guns there, right? Whereas like in a home defense type of situation, a lot of times you may be on your own. So you always got to have 2 guns, okay? Usually what I recommend is AR-15 and the Glock, okay? Those are the two guns, and if it's not going to be an AR and a Glock, it can be an AK and a Glock, or an AR and an AR and an AK. Although it's good to have a small concealable gun in case you get into a close quarter grappling situation while somebody's trying to pull the gun off you. You just go to your backup pistol. So usually you want to have a pistol as a backup gun. Pistol's only a backup gun; it's never a primary gun. So that's why no matter most likely, no matter which gun you're using, you're always going to want to have the pistol as a backup. But yeah, my first choice, AR, second choice, AK, and then after that, we can go to Lynx 12. But just to recap, reliability-wise, listen, quality control is, who knows? Who knows who was in charge that particular month when they were building your gun? Okay, I know when they built my guns, somebody was on the, was there watching, was on the ball, but when they build your guns, who knows? And the other thing is, with a lot of these companies that make guns outside the United States, there's always their future is always in question, right? Because basically Biden can just turn around and ban the import of the Lynx 12 pretty much anytime he wants. So this is a consideration that these companies take into account. How much time, effort, investment are they going to put into putting into these guns that the importation of them into the United States can be stopped at any time. So that's something that they're going to consider, and a possibility why the quality control now may not be as good as it was, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. Okay. So yeah. So anyway, a couple of things for you guys to think about. If you got any comments of your own, put them in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys. Maybe even if you disagree with me, that's fine. I was doing the recap. Lost my train. So recap, reliability. Who knows, right? The other thing is the mag change. Right? If you got to do a mag change, specifically because let's say your gun jams up, these magazines are really big compared to these magazines, right? So less likely you're gonna have an extra one of these on your body compared to one of these. And the third thing I brought up is the increased chance of user error, right? Most of the beginners that I train, I see them jam up the Lynx 12 way more frequently than the AR-15 or the AK. And then, a lot of times they do manage to jam up the pistols pretty good. But that's the reason why I would say, yeah, Lynx 12 is probably not your best choice. It's a great gun. I have 3 of them, but probably not your best choice for home defense. So, talk to you guys soon.